for giving me the honor of doing that. And first, I want to say thank you to you and to Dr. Rachel Korazim. You two have been my heroes of this pandemic. You've kept us all learning, thinking, and connected. And I've been privileged to attend many of your online presentations, Ari, and through you, I've been a regular at Rachel's, and I've just found out I've probably attended almost 120 of the presentations that Rachel has been giving since March. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And a special shout out goes to both of you. I'm a musician, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing for the community of musicians in Israel. We've really taken a big hit during this time. So thank you very much. So to introduce Dr. Rachel Korazim, I know how to do this in the right order. She's the grandmother of 8. She's a scuba diver, and she's a foodie whose specialty is chocolate mousse. I learned to say that first. Okay. On to the other. Born in Israel, she served in the IDF as an officer in the Central Training Base for Women and was later a member of the IDF delegation to Niger, West Africa. She's a graduate of Haifa University with a PhD in Jewish education. Rachel has a vast experience in Jewish education, both in Israel and worldwide. As one of the founders and directors of a special program for soldiers from disadvantaged backgrounds, she is responsible for creating the educational framework and training teachers for the implementation of the program. Rachel was head of the Jewish Agency for Israel delegation to Canada from 1985 to 1988, and until 2008, she was the academic director of distance learning programs at the Jewish Agency for Israel Department of Education. Rachel teaches at Israel's well-known learning centers such as Pardes and the Shalom Hartman Institutes, as well as online. Thank you very much, Dr. Rachel Korazim, for all your edifying lectures.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. It's my pleasure to now introduce our guest, our second guest. Prize-winning poet Ayat Abu Shmeiss was born and raised in Jaffa and still lives there today, as does Rachel. She was educated at a French Christian school and speaks Arabic, Hebrew, French, and English. She began writing at the age of 13. She got engaged at age 15, was married at age 17, and had her son at age 18, and he's now a very tall teenager. She's written 2 books of poetry, and also, I learned she recently received her degree in political science from Open University. She is also a social activist who volunteers with at-risk teenage girls. In an interview in the Tel Aviv Review of Books, she says she is, quote, "this and that. I am too. I am neither 100% Palestinian nor 100% Israeli." And to quote the interviewer there, who notes that Abu Shmeiss is an observant Muslim from Jaffa, writes in Hebrew without disavowing her Palestinian identity. Gentle and unobtrusive, her writing nonetheless challenges her religious and socially conservative background and the larger community in which she lives. Welcome to you both. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leonie, for a great job. And why don't we start? So let me start by putting on my PowerPoint, because those of you who are used to studying with me know that this is normally what I would do. So everything that I have on my PowerPoint works in agreement with Ayat, because we looked at every detail. For example, look at the slide that I now have, which has 3 beautiful pictures of Jaffa. And we were sort of discussing for a moment with Ayat, should we just present just the touristy, beautiful side of Jaffa, or maybe show one picture that is less of a tourist trap? And we decided tonight to go with the beautiful, but we will let the poetry maybe bring some of the dilemmas and the questions. So we combine that, and it indeed will be in conversation. Okay, before I go into it, and Ayat, I never told you this, and I wanted to keep this as a secret, because many of the people here studied with me literature for quite a long time. So I think they may think that I know a lot about Israeli poetry and literature. And yet up till about a year ago, I never heard about you. And I do teach Arab Palestinian poets and writers, but a more classic maybe, you know, for my generation. I'm much older than you. And then last year I was teaching a course in Hebrew U about Israeli literature and how it portrays the society. And one of the options that the students had to write a paper was about Palestinian poetry in Israel. And there is this woman, I think it was an international course, and I think she's from Denver, like literally to me, the end of the world, not to you guys. And she, in her suggestion, mentions your poems. She wants to write about them. And I felt really awkward because, you know, she's in Denver. I look your name up. You live 2 streets away from me, or 3, and I never heard about you. And so what I did, I found you immediately on Facebook, and then you accepted me as a friend. And I called you that day on Messenger and came to buy the copies of your books. It was the same day. And I was really taken by your poetry. Now, you also need to know that I do not anymore have the copies of your poems. I'll have to come and get another set because my oldest granddaughter, Shira, very appropriate name for our topic, she's 18, and she was here a couple of weeks ago in spite of the lockdown. She came to see me, and Shira writes herself, and she does spoken word poetry. And she saw the 2 books on my desk as I was getting ready with this program with Ari and all that. And she says, Safta, what is this? And I told her, said, can I have the books? I said, of course you can have the books. So Shira now took the books. I don't have the copies, but only those poems that I copied for my session. And we will talk in the morning maybe, and I'll drive over and get 2 more books again. So when looking at your poetry, and as a teacher, I always waver. Do I start with my students easy, or do we really go for that punch? And I think we agreed we do the second. So yalla. Here are the copies of the covers of 2 of Ayat's book in Hebrew and in Arabic. And we are looking at the first poem that I wanted for us to consider. So what say you, Ayat? Which one do you want to read? The Hebrew and the English? Let's do one you, one I.
I'm gonna read it in Hebrew, as I wrote it in Hebrew.
Okay, you will read the Ivrit and I will read the English and discuss it a little bit as a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
אם הייתי אימא יהודייה, והייתי צריכה לשלוח את בני לצבא, הייתי נלחמת, הייתי קושרת את לשוני לאוזניו, הייתי מדביקה את ידיי לרגליו, הייתי תולה את ליבי על עיניו, שלא ילך.
שלא ילך. Okay. If I were a Jewish mother, if I were a Jewish mother and I needed to send my son to the army, I would fight. I would bind my tongue to his ears. I would glue my hands to his legs. I would hang my heart on his eyes just so he wouldn't go. Now, I don't know how many of you are aware of what I'm going to say. I do know Ayat is aware. Israeli poetry oftentimes relates to biblical motifs. One of the motifs coming up most frequently in modern contemporary Israeli poetry is the binding of Isaac, because of this ongoing need to sacrifice sons. And look at the English translation of Talia Winston in this case, which we do not have that word in the Hebrew, because the Hebrew for the binding of Isaac and in the Muslim tradition, The equivalent is, of course, the binding of Ishmael. How do you pronounce Ishmael in Arabic, Ayat?
Ismail.
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 The binding of Ismail, because both our religions and communities have this central image of the uttermost sacrifice. And look at the Hebrew, because Ayat says, I would tie. The biblical word for the binding of Isaac is le'ekod, which Ayat, it's not an everyday language. It's not what a modern woman will say today. But Talia Wilson, in her translation, did not use the word tie, but used the word bind, which immediately sends us to the image of the Akedah. So Ayat is going straight in the poem into that heart of the core of Israeli society, but by her choice, she is not looking at the classical duo of Abraham and Yitzchak or Abraham and Ismail. She is going for the mother. And she is saying, had I been a mother? And I think, Ayat, you gave me an amazing insight of why you wanted to go this way. Will you tell our audience about your choice to go this way?
Well, actually, this poem that I wrote it, I wanted, first of all, I wanted to criticize, okay, the army, the Israeli army. Second of all, I just, I have to make it. If I want to criticize, okay, I can criticize, but there's also another thing here. There's also something that I have to put my place in the place of the mothers that are like doing this. It's like a very sensitive feelings when you make this. It's only when you can put yourself in the place of another one, you can see it. Okay, you can see it just as it is.
Okay, so I want to show you how close you are, because I'm sure you don't know all the Akedah-related Israeli poems. So here is one for us to consider. It's by Raya Hernik, who is a bereaved mother from the First Lebanon War, the before, in the First Lebanon War. She's a teacher and she lost a son. And look what she writes. I will not sacrifice. I will not sacrifice my firstborn, not I. At night, God and I are calculating who gets what. I know I'm grateful, but not my son, and not as a sacrifice. It's practically, we have a dialogue between mothers on the screen right now. I think that Raya Hernik could probably be the age of your grandmother, not your mother. There is really a big age difference here. And look at the closeness when it comes to such indeed a sensitive thing. And it is very clear to me, and being critical of the conduct of the IDF is not only something that Arab citizens of the State of Israel have. Many Jews oftentimes find ourselves critical of the conduct of the IDF. So that too may be a linking point. I wonder, Ari, do you have anything coming up in the chat, any crucial question or comment about this that you would like Ayat or I to address at this point?
Nothing in the chat. The only question I have is this criticism of IDF, or is this pain of being a parent having to send your child to war, to a battle?
I will lie if I tell you it's only one criticize. It's both of them. Because as a Palestinian, as an Arab, I have so many things to say about the army. So yes, I criticize the army, the Israeli army, and also the mothers that I am like a part of them, even if not I am a Jewish. I am a mother like them, and I cannot I want to tell them, don't sacrifice your children. Don't do this.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Ari?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Can we continue, do you think, Ayat, to the next one?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay.
Oh, I did want to say, didn't that particular poem win an award, or wasn't it named? There was something I read about the particular poem, that poem, as being one of the most important poems today in Israel.
Yeah, it was in the last 10 years, and I was so surprised. Truly, I was so surprised when you told me that your poem is this exact, especially this one, and yeah, it is.
Okay. You know, I did not even know that when I chose it to start our session with. I just think it's so important, such a great poem, such a great statement. Okay, traitor. That's complicated. That's again another punch to the stomach. So we are continuing with the tradition. You do the Ivrit, I do the English, or you want to switch?
No, it's okay, I'm gonna do the Ivrit.
do the Ivrit.
בוגדת. אני בוגדת בחושך, בלילה ובאור יום, בוגדת בסתר ומול כולם, לעיני מי שרוצה לראות, אני בוגדת כל הזמן, בוגדת בשניהם, בוגדת בשורשיי ובארץ מגוריי, בוגדת בכולכם, בלב שלכם, בעיניים שלכם, כובשת ובוגדת ולא מתנצלת.
Wow, let's go for the English, and let me, just in case you don't know what traitor means, I put the dictionary definition just so that we have it in front of our eyes. Traitor. I am a traitor in the dark of night and in broad daylight, an undercover agent in full sight of everyone, with eyes to see, always betraying both my roots and the land where I live, betraying all of you, your hearts, and in your eyes, an occupier and a traitor, without apology. So to me, my reading of this ayat, if I had to focus, and we don't have a semester to study your poetry, just 1 hour, and we want to leave time for the amazing women of Jaffa, and I have that on my mind all the time, I would focus on 2 major ideas. First of all, in Israeli society, and as we are approaching the day of commemoration of Yitzhak Rabin, who was assassinated because he was accused of being a traitor to the cause by working towards peace with the Palestinians. This is why he was shot, and the word traitor resonates in our society. You cannot imagine how easily Israelis yell traitor at one another. Arabs and Jews to Jews, and probably Arabs to Arabs. And what Ayat is capturing here, that in the particular mode of her existence in Israel, no matter what she says, somebody will accuse her of being a traitor. Exactly. And I can tell you a part of Ayat's activity that I see because we are Facebook friends. Not only is she speaking out against the injustices of the IDF, not only is she critical of the fact that Israelis would never highlight amazing women like we will have very shortly. She is also critical of the Muslim society for the murdering of women, wives, sisters, mothers, for what is perceived by men, Jews and Arabs, but in larger numbers, unfortunately, in the Arab population. So indeed, she is placing herself out there in a totally outspoken way, and not apologetic. I think for those of us looking at this from far away, the 2 lines that you want to take it with you is smack in the middle of the poem, always betraying both my roots, that would be the Arab, the Muslim, the traditional side, and the land where I live, citizenship, Israeli. No matter what I will say, at one point or another, the other side will call me a traitor. Would you like to add anything to that, Ayat?
I just want to say something about the translation. When I saw the translation, the word traitor, it was like so big to me. It was because here in Israel, to everybody, they can say traitor, that means bogedet, but it will not have the same meaning like in English. When I saw it in English, it was like so strong. That mean, I don't know, it's like very, very strong. And the traitor that I meant, it's also a word that we use in, no, it's not we, it's they used to be here in Israel. That means they can say to anybody, not only if he's Zionist or not, you are traitor, you are traitor, you are traitor. That means it's have to be like it's a normal thing to say for Arabs, for not Zionists, and etc. That's the only thing that I want to say about the translation. When you make the translation in other language, it sometimes like have another definition, has another connotation, and etc. That's it.
But you ended up agreeing with Lisa for the choice of word.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Lisa also writes for the Jerusalem Post. You may know her name from there.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll give a few moments shifting from traitor to this duality, explaining a little bit more. What does it mean to live in both worlds? Go with the Hebrew, I'll do the English.
אוקיי. אני זה שניים, חלק א' וחלק ב', צד אחד וצד שני, שניהם מנוגדים, אך אני קרובה לשניהם. בוקר, מה עניינים? חמדיללה, וואלה בסדר, יאללה סלמת, כוני בקשר. וזה מתחלק גם לסלאם עליכום ושבת שלום. כל ההפכים הנהפכים האלה ואני בתוכם, מין תסבוכת ראש נפש, וכל כיוון מושך אותי בידיים, בסוף יקטעו אותי באופן הכי מוסרי בעולם. מעבירים עליי ביקורת וזה מתאסף על גבי, כמו ערימת חול, ועוד מעט אני נעלמת, אבל אני תמיד כל פעם מנהלת מעצמי את כל החול הזה ומציצה מחדש. זה בלתי אפשרי, זה לא כתוב באף מקום ואף אחד לא הכין אותי להיות גם וגם, להיות שני חלקים ועדיין לא אחת. אבל אני למדתי לחיות בחצאים וככה כזאת אני, היא מושלמת, טוב יש את ההמשך ואני לא רואה אותו. אוקיי, just a moment. לא סובלת את הסמלים, מאוד אוהבת את החגים, ולפעמים חוגגת. חלמתי לחיות בחלום, ללכת לבקר את מולדתי, ועכשיו היא זאת שמבקרת אותי. כל שנה וחצי, שנתיים, ואני לא תמיד יודעת איך מקבלים אותה באהבה. כי בבית ספר לימדו אותי רק קרוא וכתוב, ושכחו מאהבת אדמה. אבל אני מתוחכמת, למדתי לקפח שנים של זהות, וכשאני מול הממסד ויש לי מסמכים ותעודות, תמיד בוחרים להתעלם ולראות רק את שפתי, את הבעל פה, את העיניים המערביות ולשוני המוסלמית. לפעמים אני רבה עם נפשי, מאלצת אותה לבחור, אבל היא בוכה, אומרת לי, לא בוחרים בין אבא לאמא.
לא בוחרים בין אבא לאמא. I'm divided in two. And I'd like to invite you, as we are going through the English, to attune your ears because there will be words in Hebrew and in Arabic. And that's the whole point, that the language of people living in Jaffa is a mixture of these expressions. I'm divided in two, part A and part B. One side and the other, two opposites. But I'm close to them both. Morning, manishma, alhamdulillah, walla beseder, yalla, salamat, kuni bekesher. Divided into salam aleichem and shabbat shalom. Upside down and me in the middle. A kind of mental complex. I'm pulled in two directions and they'll tear me apart in the end in the most principled way. Their censure piling on my back like sand, piling on my back like sand, and soon I will disappear. But each time I shake off all that sand and stare the impossible in the face, without written instructions. No one prepared me to be both, to be two halves and not yet whole. But I have learned to live by halves. That's how I am, imperfect. I love people and can't stand symbols. I love the holidays, sometimes celebrate. I dreamt of living in peace and visiting my homeland, which now criticizes me every year and a half or two. And I don't know how to accept this with love. because in school I was taught only to read and write. They left out the love of land. But now I am wiser. Inside a rut, I have learned to discriminate years of identity. And when I face the establishment with my documents and papers, they choose to ignore them and see only my language, my spoken language, my Arab eyes, my Muslim tongue. Sometimes I quarrel with myself, force her to choose, but she cries, tell me one doesn't choose between a father and a mother. Now, I think, Ayat, here we are going, again, if I have to pick of this amazing poem, 2 points for our audiences to pay attention to. One would have to start with the concluding line, because that's a very strong statement, the father and the mother, to be connected to the 2 cultures, not being able to divide, not being able to choose. That speaks of a very strong connection to both. That speaks against Bogedet, against traitor. That speaks of loyalty to both, which is beautiful to me. The other part that I would like people to pay attention to, it's also in the second part of the poem, so I'm going there. Because throughout the whole poem, what Ayat was giving us is nuance. Pay attention to details. I have a complicated language. I have a way of holding these 2 together, although I was not prepared. But when I come in front of the authorities, they do not see the nuance. For them, it's literally black and white. I have Arab eyes, I have an Arab name, I might have an Arab accent. This is all they see. They don't see the complexity. They don't see the richness. And I think this may be one of the causes, or correct me if I'm wrong, that we are doing this tour today, because you wanted people to see nuance. You wanted people to get out of the Arab-Jewish sort of dual, always at war kind of conversation and listen more carefully. So what else should we pay attention to in this poem, Ayat?
Oh, okay, I just have to say that, as you say, the language is very important, because I have to say that even that I am an Arab person, okay, I cannot read and write well in Arabic. So also when I speak here, also in Jaffa, we speak in Hebrew, in Arabic, and a little bit in Hebrew, as exactly as I put it here, exactly. Okay, we put just Alhamdulillah, Yalla Beseder, Kuni Bekesh. It means one sentence, you have Arabic, Hebrew, Arabic, Hebrew, Arabic, Hebrew. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, it's I think we here, the Arab Palestinians that lives in Israel, we want to integrate. Okay, but sometimes we just have all the they don't want us. They see only our Palestinian or our Arabic or our history, and that's it. And this is a problem, because if we are part of this country, it's a big problem. We are here, okay? We speak the language. We are with you. We are with them, and sometimes it hurts. It hurts that we have to choose. I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose. I love Hebrew and I love Arabic. I want to improve my Arabic, of course, okay? But also I wouldn't leave the Hebrew, because I have a special feeling for the Hebrew. Even I will write my books in Arabic, and I want to make this, okay? I will make it. I think, and also I will translate it in Hebrew, because if we live here and I want to speak with you, okay, with the people, with Jewish people that they don't know the Arabic, even if I want to criticize, I want to do it, okay? There is here a door that I want to do it.
Okay, so Ayat, this is the moment, you know, I am pulling out of my PowerPoint. We can see on the screen all those beautiful people who are with us. And this is an invitation to you to share your screen now and tell us about your amazing project, about the amazing women of Jaffa. Go.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, just a moment. Okay, so first of all, how was my project born? 2 years ago, I was watching a news item in a main Israeli TV channel, and they was talking about like two mainly things, like about the violence in the society, in the Arab society here in Jaffa, and also all were the interview were only men. There wasn't any one woman in the panel or interview. So I'll just try to say, to make something that the women here in Jaffa, they would not be like invisible, okay? To say here we are and we are successful and we are influenced and you can talk to us. So how I started it, I just start to interview successful and influential women from Jaffa, okay? I wrote the text and posted it on my own Facebook page, as well on other pages in Jaffa and also in feminist pages. All the posted and the text was written in Hebrew because I wanted to be targeting both Arab and Jewish readers in Jaffa and of course outside. Okay, I wrote so many about women, and also I want to tell you, since the Israel media is so interested in Jaffa, in the Arab community, especially to speak about the violence, I just wanted to ask them why they didn't interview this amazing woman that called Narmin Abdel Ghafer. She is a psychologist here in Jaffa and who started a clinic in Jaffa for teenagers and children affected by violence. That means what she's doing is preventing from our children from living in a violent reality. And I think she also, 1 month ago, she was recently awarded the President Scholarship for Outstanding PhD student. That means if so interesting to talk about violence, let them talk with this woman, okay? Other women that I wrote about was athletes. Here I want to show you two athletes. The first one is Maria El Masri. Maria El Masri, it's a young soccer player in Israeli National League and one of the Europe team as well. The other one, the second, Rukaya Al-Mughrabi, she's an amazing woman. She's a mom of 3 kids. And after having been paralyzed, she became a world powerlifting champion. That means also if in this item wanted to speak of sports, of poverty, of violence, of I don't know, they could speak also with these women. Here also I have wrote about Bakiza Ashur Siksek. This amazing woman, it was the first woman that dare run for a member of the Islamic Council in Jaffa. She was grow up without a father. Her father was murdered. Now she is married and the mother of 6, and she has 2 university degrees. In the election, I think like 15 years ago or something like that, she got the highest number of votes, even more than men candidates. And since she enters the council, we have women members in every election. I wrote also about many women, like businesswomen and entrepreneur. Okay, I'm gonna try to make it like this. Here you see Rojette Hinawi. Rojette Hinawi is a businesswoman. After that, her husband died. She has to take care of the business. It was like a small business of wine. Now it is one of the most successful business, not only in Jaffa, I think in Israel. She have right now like a chain of this store of wine and more. She works here inside of Israel and outside. Here you have this pretty Doris Hnawi. Doris Hnawi, she make like home hosting, and she have like a small cafe shop in Jaffa in Ajami, and she wanted to like make marketing of the coffee, and she started to make home in her home like hosting, and she was the first one to, and the first and the only one to host the Hollywood star Jessica Parker at her home. And this is Safa Younes. Safa Younes is a very interested woman. She established the first women association here in Jaffa for Arab women. And this year she created like a very, very nice culture center that combines Arab food with Arab Palestinian culture. And those two beautiful ladies that you see them, they had a very difficult childhood. Like poverty with the father and alcoholist father and etc. Now they have a salon, a bright salon in Jaffa. They have a small, they have a business that is very, very successful, and they are one of the most important and youngest women in Israel for a business like this. And here you have in the magazine of Forbes. In the education center, I wrote about these two amazing women. The first one, this religious woman, Nihaya Hamdan. She was the first woman to become a school principal here in Jaffa. I think it was like maybe 12 years ago. Now in Jaffa this year, we have women as a school principal more than men. I think we have like 6 women and maybe 2 men, and it's amazing. The second one here is Roget Amsis, and she is the first Arab woman to become a principal of a Jewish school in Tel Aviv. And believe me, it is an issue when an Arab becomes a principal for an Hebrew school. So I talk about so many women in so many domains, like artists, social activists, lawyers, economics, scientists. I got a message that one lawyer, that one woman that she's a lawyer that I wrote about, she is now a candidate to become a judge in Israel. That is amazing. That is amazing because we don't have women judge, Arab women judge. I think we have only 2 in all Israel. So I wrote about old and young with academic education are not Muslim and Christian from all the rainbow. My project wasn't become the project of the whole society, and it was very successful. There were like reviews in the local media and some abroad also, and also I was asked to do a speech on TED. I'm gonna put the link at the end, okay? Here you have the picture and the photo of some of the women that I wrote about. You have them all. And this is, you have to remember, it's like maybe 10% of the women in Jaffa, of the successful women in Jaffa, that make everything to make it better. The society, themselves, their family, our society, like it's a bit hard, but they make a very, very good job. That's about my project.
Thank you so much, Ayat. This was indeed another amazing Jaffa woman who just did this. And Ari, again, do you want to entertain questions now, or shall we conclude the official part and we'll go to the questions next? Your call.
Let's do a few quick questions since people have asked. So I guess questions for Ayat and maybe Rachel. People have asked how different, because you have translate, Ayat writes in Hebrew, and then we read the translation in English, but I read Hebrew. And so it's like reading the Bible. The Hebrew is much richer than the English because, first of all, it rhymes. The English does not necessarily rhyme, or it's playing on words, or the guttural sounds. So I guess, Rachel, is there a lot, since you read both very well, is there a lot lost in the translation from a poem in Hebrew, whether it's Ayat or someone else, to English or another language?
There is always loss in translation. And you should consider yourself fortunate if you have a good translator, because the work of translating is actually doing poetry again in the other language. And I think Ayat had here two talented translators, and I'm so happy she hasn't settled for somebody who is less than that. And even like that, an imagery, a sound, a rhyme will be lost. That cannot be avoided. It always happens. And yet, that or not getting to know it at all. So if you do not have Arabic, if you do not have Hebrew, the translation is, you know the story about that old guy, Shlonsky, who said that reading a poem in translation is like kissing a woman through a veil. And then he added, let me tell you, it's not so bad. So that's my answer to you, the Shlonsky quote. It's never the same, but if it's the best we can have, let's have it and enjoy it.
Rochelle wants, Rochelle, one of our CSP donors, wants to know, is your poetry available? Is it published in English? People, can you buy it on Amazon or somewhere else to read?
Not yet. I have only few what we have here and a little bit, but no, I have only in Hebrew and in Arabic. That means the books that I wrote, it was written in Hebrew, 1 page in Hebrew and 1 page in Arabic. Right now I didn't translate it. It was like only few translated to English. Maybe in the future.
And how? So you said it's translated to Arabic. So how have your poem has been received in the Palestinian world? And are people reading them? Are they writing to you about them? What's that been like?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was hard. First of all, I think they didn't read it at all. They just saw an Arab and Palestinian that is written in Hebrew. Oh my God, she is a traitor. What she's doing? Okay, that was, I think, the first one. Not in Jaffa, because in Jaffa we all write and speak Hebrew and read and etc. But in abroad. And now I think it's they can know me better, and now it's better. That means I have been criticized, but now it's better. They can read it in Arabic, and it's okay, mostly.
So what's your friend group in Jaffa? Are your friends Jewish Israelis? Are they Palestinian Israelis? Are they a mixture? Who do you interact with on a daily basis?
A human being.
Good answer, but you don't avoid my question. So do you? I mean,
I have all of it. Of it. I have Jewish. I have Christian. I have everybody. If the personality is okay, and if there are like more women, I have more women friends. But yeah, I have it's okay.
So, and who's your favorite Israeli poet? And it could be a Palestinian,
Israeli
it could be
poet.
Muslim, it could be Christian, it could be Jewish. Is there a poet that you like to read? And it could be classical, it could be contemporary.
Arab poet I don't read so much because the Arabic is difficult for me, so I cannot answer for this. But in the Jewish section, I love Tehillah Hakimi very much. I don't read so much poems because I don't to be influenced. But yes, Tehillah, it's very good. I think the modern
poet. So this the project you're working on, people ask. So all the women you showed us, and you said it a few times, they're all based in Jaffa. The women that you were saying.
Yes.
And so what was the reaction to your TED talk, which we will share with people?
It's very good. It was very, very nice. It was very good. Even when I started that project, I have very good feedbacks from men and from women. Men, some tell me, why don't write about men? I don't want to. I just answer, I don't want to. If you want, just do it by yourself. But it was very, very good. I have very good feedbacks from Jaffa, outside of Jaffa also. It was great. And also when I make the TED Talk, I told them I want to invite the women with me. If I don't have the women with me, I will not make it. So I say, don't worry, it will be okay. They will come and we will be with you.
So tell me a little about your family background, and also how they react to your poetry and your writing. And by the way, is that what is that your main way of making money? Like, what do you have
No.
a job? Okay, no. Wait a minute. Poetry is not a big money maker in Israel? Okay.
No, not at all. I teach in a college. I make workshops, poetry workshops. I teach also in a Jewish school. I teach Arabic as we speak, not that מדוברת, it mean. That's what I make money off. And my family, all my family are religious, very religious family. My husband and I have only one, my son, Mahmoud. What they say, and it was okay, it was fine. From my family, nobody asked me why do you write in Hebrew and not in Arabic, because my mom and my dad, they put me in a French school, and there in this French school you don't have the Arabic, it's not so good. That means they have a French, it's like perfect. You have English, you have a little bit Spanish also, and the Arabic, it's okay, but it's not like so, it's not very much level. So my father and my mother and also my close family, it was like a bit normal that I write in Hebrew. And now I just started, like 1 year, I just started to in my mind that I want to write in Arabic. So I start to practice. So I start to study also in Arabic to write it. It is difficult. It's difficult.
Sorry, and tell us how old your son is, because I know you were married very young. So how old is he?
Almost 17.
17.
Almost 17, yes.
So when you write your poetry, we have Rochelle as one of our CSP resident poets, and she tells me she has to dream her poetry. She goes to bed, she thinks about something, and many times I think her poems come to her in her dream, then she writes them down. Do you sit down knowing you're going to write a poem? Does a poem come to you and then you work on it? How long does it take you to do it, and what's your process to do that?
They come to me. They don't knock the door. They just come. They just enter. No, I don't just sit and write. No, they just come to me. And I think all my poems, not all, but they maybe the last 5 years, all my poems, it's written on my cell phone. So it can be at 2 a.m. It can be at 10 a.m. It can be now. It can be everywhere. Just come and I write it.
I hope that when we come to Israel next year, or if not next year later, but we're supposed to be there right now, that we'll meet with you in Jaffa and Rachel, and we'll get some of the people that you've introduced us to, so we can.
You have to. You have to. With this
part of our trip is really to meet the other and to meet or who really are the same. And when trips go to Israel, I think they rarely meet the variety that we try to meet with in all of Israel and all the society. So I appreciate you sharing, yourself with us, but also these other people. One of our people online, Diane, wants to know, why did your parents put you in a French school as opposed
I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Because the Arab school here in Jaffa, it wasn't good. The government didn't give money to have like a good school here in Jaffa. So my mother, she doesn't know to write and to read, even not in Arabic and not in Hebrew. And she wanted to put me in the best school that here we have in Jaffa. And the Arab school wasn't an option. So she put me in a French school. Also my sister and my brothers. Yeah, okay. That's the reason.
So when we come to Jaffa, what's your favorite restaurant? I mean, you can recommend one, Rachel should recommend. Where should we go eat?
You can go eat to the new place, the culture one that we have, the Jaffa, it's called. It's in the Area Clock. It's very, very nice because not only the food, it's a Palestinian Arab food. It's also, you can have like to talk like you talk with me right now. You can make it exactly the same because they have their culture center. So it will be perfect. And I don't want to tell Abu Hassan and Hashkhel and all of that. You know
tourist traps. These are tourist
exactly,
traps.
you know
yeah, you don't want to go there.
I think the best.
Okay, well, we're going to depend on both of you for good ideas for when we come visit. I think those are my questions for now, Rachel. What should we do with our remaining?
Can we conclude with one poem?
Sure.
Ayat, which one would you rather we did? The sex or the birds?
Oh, sex.
Okay, let's do sex. Sex is always good. Yeah, and now people are thinking, who knows what's coming? Okay.
Exactly.
So we are skipping this one that I love really, and we are going to this. You go for the Ivrit, I'll follow with the English.
אוקיי. סקס, אני לא רוצה, אני לא אכתוב על סקס כי אני מתביישת. דת, אני לא אכתוב על דת כי חל איסור. כוח, אני לא אכתוב על כוח כי את הנשמה זה מחליש. רצח, זה מכיל לי את הכאב. פוליטיקה זה קצת מלוכלך. זהות, אני כבר יודעת מה אני. אהבה, זה כבר משעמם. אני אכתוב עליי. איית, פסוקים מהקוראן.
Sex. I won't write about sex because I am embarrassed. Religion. I won't write about religion because it's banned. Power. I won't write about power because it weakens the soul. Murder. It revives my pain. Politics. It's a bit messy. Identity. I already know what I am. Love is boring. I will write about me. Ayat. Verses from the Quran. So now you understand why we were laughing when Ayat said, let's do sex, and I thought people are imagining who knows what. And actually, this is exactly where we want to be, because from everything I heard you say today is your road to the quest to be more proficient in Arabic, to better understand that which your name is coming from. Exactly. And you put all those big topics that everybody writes about, like sex and love and politics and murder and violence, and we're related to that. And I say, no, in spite of the fact that you say, I know what I am, you want to go further and deeper in that. Will you help us understand where are you going with that, with the importance of ayat, your name, meaning, verses from the Quran? That's the meaning of the name, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the meaning of my name that my grandmother gave me. She was like in love with a journalist, Egyptian journalist, and her name was Ayat, and she decided that my name will be Ayat. When she told my mom and my dad is very religious, so of course it's from the religion, it's from the Quran. Of course I will, of course it's okay. And so that's about my name. About this whole poem, it's exactly me. That means it's exactly me. It's part of me. It's part of Jaffa also. If I speak here about the religion, if I speak here about the power, about the murder, about the politics, it's exactly me. That means if also if I want to criticize, and here I am criticizing also my community about that, I'm ashamed to speak about something that it's very natural. And also I put the criticize, I put my identity, I put my beliefs, all in the same poem. So I think, and you know what, this poem, it wasn't never touched. That means as I wrote it, exactly like this, I publish it. I think it's one of the maybe few poems that nobody touched it, that even me. That means I wrote it, and exactly as I wrote it, I just put it, publish it.
That's very rare. That's amazing. So it's very, very honest. So I think it's time for me to pull out of my PowerPoint and come back and see all the screens and all of us here. I'd like you to thank you very much, Ari, by inviting me to do this and believing that we could do this, because I told you about this idea and you agreed, as you always do when I have something new to suggest to you. Ayat, thank you for responding in such a wonderful way and agreeing to work with me on that. And I hope we'll have many more opportunities to do that. And thank you, Haaretz, for coming to this. And Ari, I will let you conclude. It's your program.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. Again, our goal is to go to Israel and explore the complexities. They're not always things we want to hear, but there are things we should hear, things we should understand, and people we should meet. So I hope you'll join us in Israel when we actually get to go on the streets of Jaffa and meet Ayat and Rachel Some of you will be able to go to Rachel's home. That's one of our, we have many programs that we have planned. And so know that this
we
is
want to meet the women, Ayat's women.
yes, I think that we're going to do that. We'll have to, we'll go to the we'll talk to Rachel, we'll go to the cultural center, and that will be something that we'll do. And I'm looking forward to it. So that, you know, this whole program that we're doing is actually, in a way, will change some of the things or add to some of the things that we want to do when we go to Israel next year and in the future. So Ayat, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for your writing. I hope everyone will join us this afternoon when we go on our virtual food tasting tour in Machane Yehuda. Rachel, you're teaching poetry.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Rachel, you're teaching your poetry class tomorrow, I believe.
I
Thursday?
continue Tuesdays and Thursdays, but for next week, we are not having a class on Elections Day. That one will be postponed to Wednesday. If you are not yet on my mailing list, write to me at korazim@gmail.com, and I'll put you on the mailing list, and then you will have all the information coming to you once a week. I don't nudge you. One email a week, that's all.
I will share, right. And I do lots of follow-ups. In the follow-up, you will get Rachel's email. You will also get the TED Talk. Ayat, do you want to drop the TED Talk real quick?
Yeah, of course. Just
we'll drop it in here as well, but you can look up the TED Talk. It's great. And yeah, I think that our concluding program is tomorrow in Israel. So that's the end of our trip. We will be hanging out with the creators of Hayudim Ba'im. And if you think, if you're looking for some controversy,
yeah,
I'm very excited to get your impressions of the videos we're going to watch tomorrow. There's one about Barbie that in particular. Ayat, do you ever watch that show, Hayudim Ba'im? It's on.
Yeah, of course.
We all do. We all do.
So I would be shocked if anybody in our group has watched it, unless they've.
And they will be shocked after they watch it.
Yeah, it is so not PC. It is so Israel. It is so. The only thing I will tell you is that they do a lot of satire, and there's no nothing they will not satirize, and the religious right-wing community is very upset with some of the satire because they go back to biblical stories, and I think they point out some of the inconsistencies or challenges in the biblical stories, and they've upset the Haredi world so much that they've shown up at the public television studio. They don't want to like have them cancel Yehudim Ba'im. They want to cancel public television because of Yehudim Ba'im. So join us and find out why. And I will share the site. I don't see it up here yet. Have you shared the?
Yeah, I'm trying, and
okay.
Now here I have it.
So you guys, you right there, you'll see the TED Talk from Ayat, and you can watch that. This has been recorded, so it'll be up on our CSP YouTube channel. You can watch it or share it with other people. And this is not the last of Rachel or Ayat, I hope, with regard to CSP. Ayat has a lot to say, I have a feeling, and many years to say it, Ayat. And Rachel, a lot to teach. So look forward to having you guys back. We'll see you in about an hour and a half, everybody.
Okay, I'll try to drop in on my next door. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, Donna Wolf and David Phillips. Edward from New Jersey. Yes, we have New Jersey and Jerusalem and Tel Aviv with us today. Dalia Podwal, I see you as well. And Diane Novick, thank you. And Sharon Packer for joining us. Annabelle Lindenbaum, don't know you, but thank you for joining us. A lot of new people. If you want to be on our CSP list, just go to our site, OCCSP.
Lots of people coming from my literature class.
Yes. Okay. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. See you soon.
Later. Bye-bye.